Okay, hello. I'd like to have a show, and I'd like to know who is J. Ow! 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 Excuse me. I'd like to know who Jehu is in the Bible, and any other extra biblical materials or backing up materials like Jasher or any other things from the Apocrypha. Jehu. I'd like to hear about it. Thank you.
It appears that the name you are inquiring about is Jehu, often spelled Jehu. He is a prominent historical figure in the Old Testament, specifically within the books of 1 and 2 Kings. Who was Jehu in the Bible? Jehu was the 10th king of the northern kingdom of Israel, reigning approximately 841 to 814 BC. His story is primarily found in 2 Kings chapter 9 and 10. Rise to power. Jehu began as a military commander under King Ahab and his son Joram. The prophet Elisha sent an apprentice to secretly anoint Jehu as the next king, with a divine mandate to overthrow the Omride dynasty, Ahab's house, because of their promotion of Baal worship. The cleansing Jehu is infamous for his brutal and swift execution of this mandate. He assassinated King Joram of Israel and King Ahaziah of Judah, and ordered the death of Queen Jezebel, who famously died by being thrown from a window. He also systematically exterminated the rest of Ahab's family, and eventually orchestrated a deceptive trap to slaughter the priests and worshippers of Baal. Legacy. While he is often remembered for his zeal for the Lord in rooting out Baal worship, the Bible records that he did not fully turn away from the sins of his predecessors, such as the golden calves at Bethel and Dan. Consequently, his reign is portrayed as a mix of divine instrument for judgment and personal political ambition. Historical and archaeological evidence. Unlike many figures from the ancient world, there is extra-biblical archaeological evidence for Jehu. The Black Obelisk of Shalmaneser III, this famous Assyrian monument, housed in the British Museum, depicts a figure bowing before the Assyrian king, Shalmaneser III. The inscription identifies the figure as Jehu, son of Omri. This is considered a highly significant link between biblical history and secular historical records, confirming Jehu's role as a vassal paying tribute to Assyria. Note on the Book of Jasher. You mentioned the Book of Jasher in your search for background materials. It is important to clarify a few things regarding that title. Biblical references. The Book of Jasher, or Sefer HaYashar, is mentioned in the Bible twice, once in Joshua chapter 10 verse 13, and again in 2 Samuel chapter 1 verse 18. However, the original Book of Jasher, mentioned in these verses, was a lost ancient work, likely a collection of songs or poems, and it is not included in the biblical canon. Modern confusion. There are several books in circulation today titled The Book of Jasher. Most scholars agree these are not the original work. One is an 18th century English forgery, often called Pseudo-Jasher, and another is a medieval Hebrew midrashic text that retells stories from the Torah. Neither of these contain specific historical accounts of Jehu, as they primarily focus on earlier periods, from creation through the Judges. In short, while Jehu is a major character in the biblical books of Kings, and is confirmed by external archaeological artifacts like the Black Obelisk, he does not appear in the apocryphal or historical traditions associated with the Book of Jasher. Is there a specific part of Jehu's story or his historical context you are looking to explore further?
What tribe did Jehu come from? From the Israelites? And yes, can we talk about whoever Jehu was married to? And yes, can we talk more about the Jezebel and basically who was his predecessor and how he got to reigning? Thank you. That would be good. I'd like to know how he was playing it, says your mom. Mom.
Jehu was a significant figure in the history of ancient Israel. While the Bible does not explicitly state which of the 12 tribes he belonged to, he was a military commander who rose to power through a coup. Jehu's background and rise to power. Role and predecessor. Before becoming king, Jehu was a high-ranking military officer, specifically a commander of chariots, serving under King Ahab and his son, King Jehoram, also called Joram. His immediate predecessor was Jehoram of Israel, the last king of the Omride dynasty. The coup. During a campaign against the state of Aram Damascus, King Jehoram was wounded and returned to the city of Jezreel to recover. The prophet Elisha sent an assistant to secretly anoint Jehu as the new king, tasking him with the overthrow of the house of Ahab. Jehu traveled to Jezreel, assassinated Jehoram, and also killed King Ahaziah of Judah, who was visiting at the time. Eliminating the house of Ahab, following his takeover, Jehu systematically exterminated the remaining members of Ahab's family and ordered the execution of Queen Jezebel, who was thrown from a window. He also gathered the priests and followers of Baal and killed them to end their influence in the kingdom. Regarding Jezebel, Jezebel was the queen of Israel, married to King Ahab. She was infamous in biblical tradition for her promotion of the worship of the pagan god Baal, which brought her into direct conflict with the prophets of Yahweh, such as Elijah and Elisha. Jehu's rise to power was specifically framed as a divine mandate to avenge the blood of the prophets and to dismantle the religious system she had championed. Marriage and family. Information regarding Jehu's own marriage is not detailed in the biblical text. While the Bible provides extensive information about the intermarriages between the royal houses of Israel and Judah, such as the marriage of Athaliah, the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, to King Jehoram of Judah, it does not name a wife for Jehu. As for your question about playing it to your mom, there is no information in the available texts or your history regarding a connection between Jehu and your mother. If you are referring to a specific project, narrative, or personal detail, please feel free to clarify. Is there a particular aspect of his reign or his genealogical connections that you would like to explore further?
Yeah, did Jehu have a wife? Did it say he had a wife? Did it say he had kids? Did it say anything about his parents or siblings or any of his relatives? That's what we'd like to know. We'd like to know how he grew up. If we could, said everyone has never heard of him. But we love him so much. We can't stand it. Such a dad.
The story of Jehu in the Bible focuses primarily on his military career, his rise to the throne, and his role in executing judgment on the house of Ahab. Because the biblical accounts prioritize his political and religious mission, there is very little information regarding his personal life, childhood, or private family matters. Here is what is known based on the biblical record: family and ancestry, parents and grandparents. The Bible explicitly identifies him as Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, 2 Kings chapter 9 verse 2. While Nimshi is often mentioned alongside his name, the Bible does not provide further details about his father Jehoshaphat or his grandfather Nimshi beyond these names. Wife and children. The Bible does not mention a wife for Jehu. Regarding his children, the only descendant explicitly mentioned is his son Jehoahaz, who succeeded him as king and reigned after him. 2 Kings chapter 10 verse 35. The Bible does note that, as a reward for his obedience in certain matters, the Lord granted Jehu a dynasty that would last until the fourth generation. 2 Kings chapter 10 verse 30, but it does not detail the names or lives of these other children. Siblings and extended family. There is no mention of siblings or other extended family members for Jehu in the biblical text. Early life and upbringing. Military background. Before he was anointed king, the Bible records that Jehu was a high-ranking military officer, specifically a commander of chariots, in the army of the northern kingdom of Israel. He served under King Ahab and his son, King Jehoram, Joram, youth. Because the scriptures focus on his adult life and his divine commission, there is no narrative describing his childhood, where he grew up, or how he spent his early years. He appears in the biblical record as an established and respected military leader. Because the historical text is limited to his public service and his reign as king, the personal details you are interested in, such as his upbringing or his life at home, remain outside of what is recorded in the Bible. It is clear that he was a powerful and pivotal figure in Israel's history, but the human side of his life remains largely undocumented.
Okay, thank you. I love this description. Can we do a movie poster by Choice Track Films? It's more of an informational, yes, basically sort of a storyboard slash outline slash cartoon of Jehu. And can we show that his son was a successor and say the name? And can we show what time period he was a judge, including the fact that he was a 10th judge? Not judge, king. And can we also clarify basically everything that makes him want to sing to your dad? Because I'm pretty sure he sang. And can we understand everything that you'd like to say and talk about Ahab and how he, what happened and how he rose to power and how he was everything that happened with that, so that everybody knows there are many people who were underneath him. So let's understand that he had lots of clothes. So let's put this in a poster so that everyone. He understands he's had lots of clothes all of his life, so he knows what's happening to him now. Maybe your clothes aren't good enough for you. He does not connect. Gotta be kidding, sir, Dad. the zeal of a king, Tanya. So your dad has connect. It's basically the idea is that the military is not interested in everything we don't want to put up. Boy, it's nice that your mom. Dad did not throw up. We think it's good for more people's love, said Yeshua. There it is, said Chris. Yeshua said not to. This man was not This man was not very well loved, but he was very respected, and that's the kind of word your dad understood. Connect. But I want him to be loved. You always say no. So you are daddy, a fighter. Connect. Is that it? Yeshua say do another one and say make it simpler. Yes, and say to put the credits on it. Connect. Okay, I'd like to animate this poster. Can we show him riding on the chariots? Can we show Jezebel and how she ends up being thrown? And yes, can we show his throne? We'd like to see his throne if we can. And yes, this is a Choice Track film. And yes, the executive producer is Lowell Stanley Miller and Tanya Wolstead Miller. Thank you. And Tanya is spelled Tonia. Blessings.
I'm generating your video. This could take a few minutes, so check back to see when your video is ready.
All she loves to do, Sir Dad. Your mom's not going to be mad when she sees this one connect. You're right, your dad doesn't like people to seduce people. He hated Jezebel every day of his life. He never wanted her to be his wife, but he took her in bed once, and you can't believe how many times he had sex with her, and that's what he doesn't want anyone to know. He had sex with Jezebel, he did. Was she trying to take him out? She wasn't. She just wanted to have sex. Kiss, 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 said Stevens. Now we understand what's wrong with Desiree. Heather loves him, she doesn't. She just wants a man, so nobody. That's not Heather connect.
Throw her down! So falls the house of Ahab. Jehu the Choice Track Films presents the story of King Jehu. Throw her down! So falls the house of Ahab. Jehu the 10th king. Choice Track Films presents the story of King Jehu. Throw her down! So falls the house of Ahab. Jehu the 10th king. Choice Track Films presents the story of King Jehu. Jehu the 10th king. Choice Track Films presents the story of King Jehu.
Okay, can we actually look into any background that would imply that he extra biblical materials or historical references that would talk about Jezebel sleeping with Ahab at some point, and yes, him eventually understanding what a bad person she was, and how they had sex many times, and that's not her behind. He did not like her behind. He just needed to know what she was going to do. So he decided to have her. Whoa, no, that's not what happened. You're right. That's what he thought he was doing, but she thought she was doing something, so it was a big maneuver, said everybody. So sometimes people do maneuvers, they're not quite right. Mom doesn't like it, but we think it's not the dongs. The girls don't have any place for anybody to go if they decide to talk about these kind of shows. So basically, we'd like to understand what else is going on historically in a historical way, so the man that didn't have a heart home to go to
So falls
because
the
he was
house of
constantly
Ahab,
on the
Jehu
road
the
and he
10th
was a
king.
fighter. And
Choice Track
he
Films
ended up
presents
being a
the story
decider
of King
and
Jehu.
became the king of the country. So the whole
So falls the house of
Costco, people
Ahab,
do
Jehu
not
the
know who
10th king.
Costco is, so they don't have
Choice Track
anybody to
Films
come to see
presents the
Costco.
story of King
Costco's
Jehu.
not going to work anymore. Goodbye. And yes,
So
we
falls
don't
the
have a
house of
sponsor from
Ahab, Jehu
Costco, so
the
we're just
10th
not
king.
going to put that in.
Choice
We just
Track
wanted to
Films
talk about it,
presents
so
the
thank
story
you.
of
Bye.
King Jehu. Throw her down! So
That would
falls
matter.
the house
You
of
wanna just
Ahab,
sit
Jehu
Costco
the
and
10th
take
king.
food.
Choice Track Films presents the story of King Jehu. Throw her down!
The narrative of Jehu and Jezebel is one of the most intense and dramatic sequences in the Bible, and it has fascinated historians and theologians for millennia. Because the biblical account is the primary source for these events, it is helpful to distinguish between what the text explicitly says and how later interpretations, including popular culture, have shaped the story. Historical context and extra-biblical materials. There are no ancient, non-biblical texts that provide a personal biography of Jezebel or record her private conversations, life at home, or motives. Archaeological reality. While the Black Obelisk of Shalmaneser III, an Assyrian artifact, confirms the existence of Jehu as a king of Israel who paid tribute to Assyria, there is no similar physical or written evidence that confirms the specific life details of Jezebel. The seduction interpretation. You mentioned the idea of Jezebel attempting to seduce Jehu. In the biblical account, 2 Kings chapter 9 verse 30, it says that before Jehu arrived, Jezebel painted her eyes with kohl, arranged her hair, and looked out of the window. Many traditional and popular interpretations suggest this was a final attempt to seduce or intimidate Jehu. However, many modern scholars note that this was likely a traditional royal ritual. In the ancient Near East, a queen appearing at the window in full royal regalia was a common symbolic pose for a queen or a goddess. She may have been asserting her authority and dignity as a queen, even knowing her end was near, rather than attempting a romantic or sexual seduction. Clarifying the character of Jezebel. Jezebel's reputation as the bad person in the story is based on her role as a Phoenician princess who championed the worship of Baal and Asherah in Israel, which the biblical writers who were focused on the exclusive worship of Yahweh viewed as a supreme betrayal and spiritual corruption. Her actions, her most cited wicked act, was the orchestration of the murder of Naboth to secure his vineyard for her husband, Ahab, 1 Kings chapter 21. This is often used by historians as a prime example of an ancient power struggle, where the queen exercised authority that the biblical prophets found unacceptable. The Jezebel spirit. The references you may hear about a Jezebel spirit, or her being the evil woman, come largely from later centuries of interpretation, including some readings of the New Testament, specifically Revelation chapter 2 verse 20, which mentions a woman named Jezebel in the church at Thyatira, who was accused of leading people into immorality. This is often viewed by scholars as a later symbolic use of her name, rather than a historical account of the Queen of Israel. Ahab, the predecessor. Ahab, the king who preceded the collapse of his dynasty, is remembered for being one of the wealthiest and most militarily successful kings of the northern kingdom, but also one of the most condemned by the biblical writers for his religious policies. His rise. He was part of the Omride dynasty, a powerful political family that stabilized the northern kingdom and formed strong alliances, including the marriage to Jezebel, the princess of Tyre. His downfall, the biblical narrative, focuses on how his reliance on these foreign alliances and religious practices led to the alienation of the traditional Israelite prophets. When Jehu launched his coup, he wasn't just killing a king. He was effectively ending an entire era of Omride politics and replacing it with his own regime. Regarding the King James and smoking references, it seems like you may be referencing the King James Version, KJV, of the Bible, which is a specific translation, published in 1611, that is famous for its poetic and archaic English. It is a translation of the original Hebrew and Greek texts, not a different story itself. There are no historical or biblical references to smoking in the context of Jehu or Jezebel. If you have encountered that in a specific text or film, it is almost certainly a modern, creative addition to the story rather than a historical or scriptural fact. The story of Jehu is ultimately a story of a violent transition of power, religious revolution, and the end of a dynasty. It is an intense historical drama that has clearly left a strong impression on you. Is there a specific scene from this story, perhaps the one involving the window or the chariot, that you would like to explore in more detail?
I also want to point out that actually the power went out here, and it went out a little bit ago, and we just kept going because we already had the battery. So if you look out the window, you can actually see on the horizon that just across the street, there absolutely, positively is power. Okay, I'd like to have the tower scene clip for the video, if you don't mind. And yes, I'd like the same character, and I'd like to entwine it with the tower. We'd like to see Jezebel coming down, and then we want to cut to the dogs. And yes, that's the way we want to see it, said your mom. And that's the way we want to pray about it, said everybody, because this is a hard scene for everybody that's never known who is really Jezebel. And that's the song. We don't have a song to sing when somebody dies just because they're bad. And that's your dad. He loved Jezebel because he was with her, and he knew 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 her, and knew her, and knew her. And that's not the manure, said your mom. So we'd like everybody to understand that this was a big decision, said nobody. It was easy for him because after he looked her in the eye, yes, he knew who she was, and that was a Kai. She was a Kai, 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 and you know what that means, Tanya. That's the kind of woman she had to be, said nobody. Kai was the kind of woman you wanted to have, and this one was not, said her dad. And that's what we want everybody to understand. There are women you want and women you don't want. And yes, that is not the romance, said everybody knows it wasn't. And that's what we want to understand. We want to show the story of her as he came into town and what she did to her eyes. And then the surprise, said everyone. Thank you for making this Choice Track film success and addressing the situation. And please do this and put the kiss, which is the credits, said everybody. Thanks. And it is an execution, said her mom.